Live from Oceanside Storage on Alameda Avenue in peaceful Alameda, California, it's the Rock and Roll Coup d'etat with Eddie Winters.
Oh yes, my name's Eddie Winters and we're back, baby, and we've got a smoking hot guest on the line. I'm very excited about this interview. We've got a phenomenal musician. I gotta be talking about Chip Z'Nuff from Enuff Z'Nuff. Chip, how you doing this morning, baby?
Pretty good here in lovely Chicago, where the weather just stopped snowing, and it's going to go up to 60 degrees in the next 20 minutes.
Look at that. By the way, you're going to be in the California in a matter of a couple of days, and you're going to be performing here in Sacramento at the Holy Diver on the 27th. I got to know, Chip, how has these recent tours, you've been in Europe, you've been playing all over, how has the recent shows been going for you?
Well, it's been going terrific, I got to be honest with you. Crowds have been great, playing some wonderful audiences. In the meantime, while we're not out there playing gigs, slugging it around, hitting every single town that listen to us, we're in the recording studio, and we've been tracking. We have a new record. We're going to put it out in September with Frontiers. So the combination of recording in the studio, playing live shows, and staying busy, that's what keeps the band going. Luck is the resin of design. We certainly haven't stopped. It's been a lot of hard work, and it's not like the old days where you got an ounce of cocaine and a bunch of booze and a big bag of pot, and you just travel around the country in a huge 45-foot Prevost or a Van Hool. Band is out there slugging it in vans, going city to city, play a show, hang out with our audience. We got a lot of brothers and sisters out there who've been doing this for a long time.
Right.
And then same thing, next day, wash, rinse, repeat. And I'm not bored yet. I got to be honest with you. After all these years, if you had told me in 2018 Enuff Z'Nuff would still be going strong, I might have questioned it with our behavior. But the band is great right now. I have Tony Fennell from Ultravox playing guitar with us, which is terrific. Tony took Midgear's place in the band for years. He was also a label mate of mine over at Atco Atlantic Records for years. And I have Tori Stolfrege in the band as well. He's been with me for about 10 years, and a guy named Daniel Benjamin Hill on drums from Chicago, Illinois. And these guys come out every single night. They never mail it in. They're real serious about their craft, and they love and respect the legacy of Enuff Z'Nuff. So we're out there every single day. We're playing all the time. There's a huge tour we're getting ready to announce this year. Massive tour for us.
Is that right?
And he hasn't hit record out in 25 years. I'm really excited about what the future holds.
I'm excited as well because I've seen some recent clips on the internet of you guys playing, and the thing about watching you is you're on the lead vocals first of all, and but the band sounds so fresh, and it sounds as best as it ever has been. Was there ever a time for you leading up to this where you kind of had some doubts?
Well, I never wanted this job, I'll tell you that. My brother, who's a terrific singer and songwriter and musician, he's naturally gifted. As soon as he opens his mouth, turn a tape recorder on because not a bad note comes out. But when I looked at, when my time came up to where we were getting ready to go back out on tour and there was nobody left, I decided that, I'll use the Genesis template. When Peter Gabriel left the band, Phil Collins took over lead vocals. They didn't go outside and try to get another guy from another band or another musician from around the country. And not that I don't look at that as a good template, because look what Journey did and Styx, Stone Temple Pilots, Foreigner, the list goes on of great bands who went out and got the lead singers to do the job. When I was talking to my bro, he says, "You're going to go out and do Enuff Z'Nuff. You got to sing the songs. At least people will know when you're in front that it's Enuff Z'Nuff." And that's what I've done. And listen, it's a tough job. It's really challenging singing these songs. And I sing every single night in Enuff Z'Nuff, and I sing songs on the record as well.
Right.
But to do the whole thing every single night, all the songs, all lead vocals, it's a bit challenging, but I'm up for the task.
You've done, obviously, solo records and where you sang, and you've done that type of presentation, but I'd read in other interviews that you were nervous about doing it, and you kind of had to get your confidence up, and I think you had mentioned, you'd done the Kiss cruise, and you toured with Ace Frehley, and that kind of boosted your confidence. What was the first step for you to just basically say, screw it, I'm going to do it?
we had an M3 festival in Baltimore, and there was a big crowd. We're playing with a bunch of great bands, and that was the first challenge. I knew if I could get through that one, I think we'd be okay. And in the first shows, I had song lists in front of the stage, in front of the monitors. There was nothing for me to look at lyrics. So I just scribbled down a little piece of paper, and that certainly helped me in my confidence. Once I went through the songs and did a dozen or so shows, I started getting used to it a little bit more and started getting better and better and better. And a little rehearsal never hurts anybody, okay? And that's what it was all about, just playing the songs all the time, doing the shows. And I listened to the fans' reaction, and that was the biggest plus for me. It's been great every night.
I was going to ask you, how have the crowds been? Have they accepted you as the lead vocalist now?
Sure, because Enuff Z'Nuff was always like, Nielsen or Xander or Tyler and Perry. Now, I'm not saying we're as strong as those gentlemen, but that was our template. There was always two guys that were the front and center cats in the band, even though it was a four-ring circus. So I think the fans have seen me. I've never stopped. I've never taken a break. I think the fans have seen that. Plus, they've watched me on tour with Adler from Guns N' Roses. I was out with Missing Persons for 6 years doing tours with those bands. So the fans have seen me out there, and I think that certainly helped. I've made a lot of friends along the way.
You put out the record Clowns Lounge 2016, and then on Frontier, and you just finished up this brand new album. And I believe, is this the brand new album is going to be, the band's 22nd record?
That's correct.
What was the biggest challenge for you, I guess, putting this record together and, in the studio doing the work? What was the hardest thing for you?
Well, I didn't have my partner at the time, Donnie, to play off the songs, but Tony Fennell came filled right in perfectly. He's a wonderful songwriter and great singer. I had all these songs. I started recording them. I played the template for the rest of the guys. And Tony and everybody gave me a thumbs up and says, "Mate, you got some great songs here." And then we just took it from there, one at a time. That's the great thing about being in the studio. You're making a rock record. You have to start with drums. That's the template.
Right.
And then one song at a time. And I didn't bounce around. I just went, really focused on each song and how I wanted to put it together and how I wanted to present it. And then I knew once I was finished the record where to go to. I wanted to get a great mixer, someone that does records and works with big bands, and I went out and got Chris Steinmans here in Chicago, who's worked with everybody from Alice Cooper to Ozzy Osbourne.
Right.
And even though we're more of a pop band, I wanted to get a real rock producer, and this guy's very diversified. He does every kind of style of music. He's a singer, songwriter, artist, and that certainly helped me a lot. But went in the studio, and we bashed out these songs in about 2 weeks, and then it took us about a week to mix them.
Wow.
And that's how records should go. There's no need to spend 6 months or a year on a record. It's all done analog. I have my own studio here in Chicago. Everybody's recorded over here in Blue Island. And I just took that stuff that I did here on the south side of Chicago and went downtown to Chicago Recording Company. It was funny. I walked in there, and the first cat I seen was Chance the Rapper. He was in there recording in one of the other rooms. And Jennifer Hudson was in another room recording tracks. And Wilco was recording, and there's a plethora of great musicians here in Chicago that I got a chance to rub elbows with, and that was very inspiring as well.
You've probably rubbed elbows with a lot of great people, and I mean, and one of the other things that is inspiring is that you've had such a long history, and really the band has got such a giant legacy that you've created throughout your lifetime. With this new album, which is kind of basically another first for you. Do you look at this new album as like kind of an unexpected evolution for you as an artist?
Well, it's certainly a new chapter. Enuff Z'Nuff. We put this band together in 1984. We're little kids. We slugged it out in the clubs, opening for bands like BTO and Cheap Trick until in 1988, where Doc McGee had Skid Row in the studio in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, and he heard our demo, and that tripped his trigger. He thought we had something special. And he took our demo tape and gave it to a guy named Derek Shulman over at Polygram, who was opening up his own new imprint on at Atco Records, which is a subsidiary of Atlantic.
Right.
And Derek's first signs were AC/DC, Bad Company, Pantera, and Enuff Z'Nuff. And that started all off for us. And having Doc as a manager then was really great because he's very focused. He knew exactly what he wanted to do because he had great bands already, like Bon Jovi and Motley Crue at the time. He knew what Enuff Z'Nuff needed, how to be positioned, and he was smart enough to get us out on the tour right away. And our first tour was with Badlands, J.K. Lee, Ray Gillen. That was a great band.
Right.
And we toured around the country with them, playing nothing but clubs and theaters. But because of our friend Rick Krim over at MTV, who really believed in the band, we got some spins there, and that video helped elevate us, and we were able to build it until we were out on our own, and the record went gold, and we were able to tour around the country as a headliner. And then, the change of the guard happened in 91, 92 with Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, Alice in Chains, Nirvana, and a lot of those bands went away, and maybe rightly so for a few of them. But some of the strong ones were out there, and they were able to withstand the punishment and stay out there and work and play, and we're one of the lucky ones. We found ourselves behind the 8 ball for quite a long time. If it was easy to make it, everybody'd be huge. But one thing that we never did was stop. We continued to tour, we play around the country, and we were always good to the fans, because without the fans, there's no band.
You had your contemporaries that had a lot of the glam and the hard rock edge, but there was some quality to Enuff Z'Nuff that was so different from other bands, and I think it relates back to, you're such deep fans of great music, and it shows in the songwriting. The actual quality of your songs, I believe personally, is unparalleled to a lot of the groups that were out there, and it's kind of shocking that the group didn't sustain as the grunge era kind of came in, because it was so different.
I think we stuck it out. We did pretty well. I'm proud of our accomplishments then. Where a lot of those bands disappeared, we kept putting records out. And I always looked at Enuff Z'Nuff like a pop band with rock overtones. We grew up listening to the Beatles and Not the Hoople, and of course Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd and
right.
Who, and a lot of the English stuff. But we also gravitated to a lot of the pop stuff too. We loved Jellyfish and big fans of Squeeze.
Right.
And Crowded House. So there's a lot of different groups that were out there that we listened to and were a big influence on us. And I think that showed in our songs. And a lot of the bands that came out in the 80s and 90s, they were listening to what was happening then. The metal stuff with the Iron Maiden and Judas Priest, which are all great bands. But I think our influences were a little bit of everything. It was like a potpourri of all the different great bands together. And we weren't afraid to wear them on our sleeve. And I think that's what helped the band develop their own sound. Plus, at first, the inmates were in the asylum. In other words, the band had no management in the early days and really no direction. So it was just Donnie and myself sitting in my bedroom with 8-track Fostex, writing these songs and recording them in the drum machine, trying to not wake up the neighbors and piss anybody off. And I think that those tapes were really a template for what we were about to witness in the future, which was a juggernaut of material. Right. We certainly had tons of songs, hundreds of songs before we got signed. It took 5, 6 years before we actually got a deal. And when we actually got signed, we had all this material. We just started recording songs, and the label was smart enough to go, we got a good problem, guys, too many good songs. Let's cut it down to the 10. And that's what I think all bands should do right now. I think when you're going to put a record out, the average time span for anybody listening to material, it's so short. There's so many things to do, so many options in the world. I think it's real important for a band to just put out, give me your best 10 songs. You only get paid for that anyway. And go out there and record them and do the best you can, put a nice record together. And then from there you can take it to the next level and find out exactly what you want to do. I think too many songs is too much information, and people don't have time for it.
No double albums in your future.
Well, I love double albums, and I think a lot of people do. The old double albums were great. But nowadays, I really believe that the way the music industry is, no one knows where it's going next. It's, my personal opinion is going to be some kid in the basement recording songs, and he finds a way how to get it out to people, and he sells millions of records, and that's going to be a new template, because the only template I know right now is for bands to get out there and go play shows. If you want to get a big tour, you got to buy onto it. If you don't have a name band, which is tough for the newer bands out there. So you go out, you find a tour, you make friends with these guys, maybe they'll take you on tour or buy onto the tour, and then go out and play the shows and steal the fans. And with the advent of the internet and social media, you've got a chance to tap a button to reach quite a few people. But this is not an easy task whatsoever for anybody out there. And I really believe that if you get a record out there, for any of the bands that are listening to this right now, get a record out there, try to find a band that'll take you on tour. And maybe there's a producer or a director out there, and there's a soundtrack, a movie, a TV show, a commercial, something you can get your song in and brand yourself. And that certainly may help you a lot. That is the template that I'm using right now. Enuff Z'Nuff has a name. We've sold some records. We'll go out to a play, and maybe there's somebody out there that hears it and goes, I'm going to get these guys at the next movie or in my TV show, or there's a soundtrack coming up, or maybe there's a band out there that wants to record one of our songs. That's the way to go right now, because any other way is a shortcut to thinking.
You brought up a great point, too, which is the internet and YouTube and things like that have really kind of changed the presentation for groups. And let me paraphrase you. I heard you in the interview. You talked about how, something to the effect that, now because of the internet, when you perform, you have to be 100%. You have to bring it. And, has that level of immediacy with the internet kind of changed your approach?
It certainly has. Listen, every show is going to be difficult for anybody. All the bands. I just heard that Rock and Roll Hall of Fame show, and you leave everything up to the sound guy. You don't know how it's going to come out. And some shows are going to be really strong, and you're going to go, "Wow, the band was on fire." And other shows are going to sound a little questionable, where things that don't sound as well as they should. And that's just the way it is. There's no fixing stuff. In the old days, those live records, when you go get a Van Halen live record, or Aerosmith or somebody, everything's spot on there. Well, they went back in the studio and they got a chance to tweak it up and make it sound great. Nowadays, it goes right out there, and YouTube doesn't have the best quality when it comes to bands, people recording your songs. So you want your stuff to be out there, you want people to hear it, but it's not always going to be in your best interest. And that's just a chance you got to take right now with the advent of the internet. Just try to play every show and make sure they're as strong as possible. Because when people are going to hear it, they're going to go, the band wasn't on fire this night, and that's not a good thing, because you don't get a second chance on a first opinion.
Obviously, like Enuff Z'Nuff and a lot of these bands that have stood the test of time have continued to work and do everything that they need to do to stay on the road and stay productive. With the internet, I feel like sometimes you have to live up to unreasonable expectations, because fans, they want you to be the exact same guys that you were in 1989, or they want you to be. They want the same lineup. How do you deal with, say, the naysayers? And how do you keep pushing forward with that?
I like what Steven Tyler says. We owe it to the public to come out and be in good shape and sing and play as well as we can, because the first time these people heard our songs, they fell in love, or they were, they getting high or whatever it was the first time they did it, and it really tripped their trigger, and it was exciting, and they want to go back to that time again when they were younger. And plus, you don't want to see your favorite rock star out there when he's out of shape and not playing or singing well. So
right,
it's a lot of responsibility right there for all of us. So I feel that for the bands that are out there to evolve is okay. Change is good. It's natural, and we all do it. But my personal thoughts are, if you've had some success in the business, try to keep your look together and try to present yourself properly. And you look at Bon Jovi right now, maybe it doesn't help, because he's got short hair right now, older guy.
Right.
But his band's still on fire, and they're still playing shows, and they're selling out everywhere they go. And some of the bands are able to do it. Other bands, they come out there, you go see Aerosmith, Tyler and Perry, they look a little older, but they look the same. They still got their look, they still got their vibe. Cheap Trick, same thing. So Iron Maiden, the same. So these guys they've all kept their semblance of how they came out in their early days, and hats off to them, because it's very difficult.
You mentioned the partnership that you had with Donnie, and you refer to him as your brother, and obviously you've known each other very, very long. Can you give us an idea, like what is your relationship like with Donnie, and what was it like? But how do you guys still get along and talk these days?
Our relationship was great in the early days. All we did is get together every single day and record songs and play. We really had a vision. We were super focused in it. And the focus of attention was just coming up with a plethora of great songs, and then we'd find somebody later on down the line that would listen to them. And it worked out well. That template was good, because we found ourselves finally getting a record deal and be able to get out of the van and get in the bus and go tour around the country for years and years. It was real good. Now here we are in 2018. I don't really hear from Donnie a lot. He's focused in a solo record, and I'm sure it'll be great because he's a wonderful writer and a fantastic singer. But he's not out there playing and doing shows, and that's what you need to do nowadays. Once he puts the record out, maybe he'll put a band together and go out and tour around the country. We don't really speak a lot, but I know we both wish each other well.
If Donnie ever gave you a call and said, Chip, you know what, I want to come back, would you? Is that something you'd entertain?
He didn't do that when we were putting out the Clown's Lounge record. He's a bit cantankerous. Maybe he felt that he wasn't happy about us moving forward with a new record, and he wanted to leave the legacy alone. But he was on a lot of the new records, so I did talk him into it, and it was a major label, and Frontiers has been good, and they look out for their bands. They're signing a lot of stuff, and maybe, I don't know, for one reason or another, he just felt that he wasn't ready to get involved in the album, but he left it all up to me. I put it all together myself. And when it was all said and done, we wet his beak on the record, and he got paid, and he seemed to be pretty happy. And we went on tour and played and didn't really hear much from him after that. But the record did well enough to where Frontiers came back to us and said, we want to sign you guys for a couple more albums. So it's all good. Everybody's happy. We want to see each other do well. Our legacy is exactly what it was. And there's not enough time in the day to be mad at anybody. I'm grateful for the opportunities that we both provided for each other. And I hope his solo record does really well. And in the meantime, I certainly hope that he feels the same thing about the Enuff Z'Nuff next album, Diamond Boy, because I think that he'll be pleasantly surprised at what we've come up with.
I'm excited about the new album. But you guys have been, obviously, you've been through a lot. And I wanted to ask you, kind of personally, when you lose a lot of friends as we get older and processing those emotions, did those events kind of cause you to reevaluate your own life?
Well, anytime you lose brothers, it's devastating. And losing Derek to substance abuse was certainly a major blow to the band. It was right when we were back together again, the original band, put a record out, go over to Japan and tour and play through the United States, and fans would have loved it. It chokes me up a little bit when I to think about it, because I miss the guy every single day. He's irreplaceable, a wonderful guitar player, and I'm just grateful for the times that we got to spend together as a band and as brothers. And losing Ricky a few years later was just as hard. And we found ourselves with half the band gone. Huge contributors to the group, not only in sound, but our look, everything. A big part of our fabric. But there's no stopping, I guess, for me. And the good Lord has his own plans. And I decided to keep moving on. Donnie left the band as well. Monaco, my guitar player, was singing the songs with me. We were all three-piece, just trying to keep the choo-choo train moving it forward. And you miss the camaraderie, you miss the sound. But I thought we did a great job as a three-piece, going out there playing around the country until we could figure out what exactly we were going to do. And Donnie came back in 2012, 2013. We went over to Europe and played a show. We did 12 shows in 13 days. That was real difficult for him. And I realized then he was disillusioned by the business, and rightly so. And he had some health issues he was fighting at the time, and he decided he was going to take a hiatus. And that's when I decided, well, maybe it's in my best interest to try to reevaluate. Maybe I'll join another band. Maybe I'll go back to Adler again from Guns N' Roses. We had a great time doing the Adler's Appetite, touring around the country, playing the Appetite for Destruction in its entirety every single night. Or maybe I go back with Dale and do some stuff with her. And there's other options I had. I produce records. I'm playing over 100 albums in my lifetime.
Wow.
Maybe there's another option for me, and I decided one night sitting up that I was going to try to front the band and sing the songs. I helped write them. I produced the records. Why can't I go out there? I should get my chance, too, after 30 years. And I was lucky enough to have the confidence of Tony Fennell, who's a great lead singer. Did a great job in Ultravox, I'll tell you that.
Right.
The guy can play and produce anything. and Tori and Dan, and they all said, "Hey, this sounds great. Let's go ahead and move. Let's move forward." And it takes a team. There's no I in team.
Right.
And I'm grateful that I found guys that believed in the legacy, believed in the band, and here we are now, getting ready to put out another album and getting ready to go on a major tour this year. Nothing but wonderful venues through Live Nation.
When you meet the fans and you get people who come up to you and, your music, for a lot of kids back in, the late 80s, early 90s, your music was, everywhere for a while. You could turn on MTV, people would, watch your videos, and your music had an opportunity to touch people's lives in a very, very unique and special way. Probably almost like how, music like Kiss and Cheap Trick and affected you. Do you, how does that make you feel? Do you feel, that sense of responsibility as an artist? What does that do for you?
Well, certainly builds confidence, that's for sure.
Right.
You're slugging it out in the clubs, playing for nothing, and it's exactly what we were doing for years and years and years. And all of a sudden to get a break where you can go out and play shows, and even though you're not making much dough at the time, you have these outlets like MTV and VH1 and different TV shows that are playing your videos. And radio embracing your songs as well. That's pretty exciting, I got to tell you right now. It really feel, it makes you feel like you got a chance, and it gives you a purpose. Because for years and years, we even though we never lost our way, we always were pretty focused with our songs. You just never know who's going to grab onto it and who's going to gravitate to your music. So, no, it's a wonderful thing. When MTV and VH1, those stations dissipated, it was a tough blow for all of us, especially for our egos. Here we are getting played all the time. We're playing sold-out shows, even if we're doing clubs or theaters, was great. And at a time for us in those early days, we were playing sheds and arenas, following around Guns N' Roses and Skid Row and Tom Petty, and playing with big bands and Def Leppard, and then we find ourselves back in the clubs again. So it's peaks and valleys. Everything was up and down, but for some reason the focus still stayed with the band. Let's go out and just play great shows and see where it takes us. And every single time you're out there playing, you don't know who's out in the crowd. You got to give it your best. And it's not about just the dough, because otherwise we'd be spending money for meet and greets, and people can come say hello to the band for 30 seconds for a couple $100. We said we're not doing that. We went out there. We kept the old template where we go out and play these shows, give a great performance, and then meet the fans afterwards. And I think it's been working out pretty well for us. It worked out well enough to where after doing the rock and roll fantasy camp and then doing the stuff with Paul Stanley and the Kiss Cruise and the Ace Frehley tour, now we got this Live Nation tour coming up with Sirius XM presents Hair Nations 2018. It's Jack Russell's Great White, the Bullet Boys, Enuff Z'Nuff, and one more band to be determined. I think Eddie Trunk's going to do some of the hosting in a few select dates. And we're looking at going out September 5th, and we'll be on the tour until November 9th. And we'll dip into the catalog. We'll work and play a lot of this stuff off the first 3 albums, and then we'll do stuff off our new album as well. And I think the fans will be pleasantly surprised to see the band, the lineup how we are right now.
Do you look at the future, and can you imagine, where Enuff Z'Nuff's going to be, say, in 5 or 10 years? Like, do you think about that kind of stuff?
No, you take it a day at a time now. When you're older, when you're younger, you might think that way and go, in 5 years, this band, we can be as big as you too. You're crazy, and you have all these ambitions, and you want to fulfill it. And you don't want to let your friends and family down, especially in this business where you have to sacrifice and leave everybody behind to go out on the road and do these things that we do, which is play songs for an hour or 2 hours every single night for the fans. It's quite a sacrifice. No, it's day at a time, my friend.
Yes.
You're just going to go out there, you just get through the day, do the best you can. Like today, I'll be recording. I'll lay down a song in the studio, one idea, and maybe 2, and then I'll move on. I have a rehearsal tonight, and then get ready for this next tour we have in the West Coast. So that's my focus right now, staying healthy. I was just out in England with the band. We did a big tour. I came back home. I had a cut on my hand. It got infected. I was sick.
Oh, jeez.
I never get sick. And so for the last week or two, I've just been mending, getting myself back together again. And then, of course, the studio doesn't stop. You got to keep recording. If you got a session, you got to make sure you're available. So I'm just getting back on my feet where I feel like I'm kicking ass now again. And next week will be wonderful. We'll be on Wednesday. We're playing with Alice Cooper and with John Five, I think it is, over at Lucky Strike in Los Angeles.
Right.
Just doing an impromptu thing, 3-4 songs, go out there and play. It'll be jam-packed, sold out. And then the following night, we're at the Whiskey A Go-Go, and then we work our way through to Holy Diver.
Right.
And so we got some really nice shows in the pipeline, and we're shooting a couple of videos for the new record as well. So staying very busy, but it's one day at a time nowadays, okay? No need to focus for what's going to happen 5 years from now.
Right.
I'm not God. I can't predict the future.
Before we go, I wanted to ask you a question that I presume maybe you've never been asked, or maybe once or twice in your career. Do you remember your first cigarette?
Yeah, I can. The first one was we had a shed in the backyard. I lived in a little town called Cayuma Park, Illinois. And I lived on an old Indian reservation slash cemetery. Haunted like you wouldn't believe, right across the street from Raceway Park. Great little place, though. And I'll tell you, on my block, it was a plethora of musicians. You had Billy Dior, the drummer from DeMol's, across the street from me. And I had the guitar tech from Black Sabbath across the street from me. And my buddy Frank Levo, who played with the singer from Ted Nugent's band, Derek St. Holmes, was across the street from me.
Oh, wow.
And then I had Razor from Degeneration there. So I had all these musicians on this, right on this. We lived, right across the street from the school. And I remember we built a shed in my backyard. I was maybe 15, 16 years old. We built this shed in the backyard somewhere we could just hang out there, listen to music, and smoke, or share a cigarette. And that's the first place I pillaged the smoke off my mother. And that's when all the bad stuff started. But I don't remember the taste of the cigarette. I just remember us stealing cigarettes off our parents, and then going in this little shed and smoking, which was a death trap. Okay, you could burn yourself down, this little thing. But we felt like we were getting away with something, and it was debauchery at a young age, and for us it was, at least. Thank God it wasn't anything else. One cigarette never hurt anybody.
That's a great story. I'm glad I asked. Well, Chip, I gotta say, I want to thank you so much for spending your time with us and kind of opening up and talking about the band and the history. And we are looking forward to you guys hitting California and doing these shows and ending up in Sacramento. And I also want to wish you the best for this huge tour that's coming up with Jack Russell. I look forward to the new album. Do you have a date for the new record?
New record comes out September 14th. We turned it in months ago. Takes time to set everything up for the label. We're working along with them. We're not pushing anything. They want the tour starts on the 5th. The record will come out on the 14th, but there'll be pre-orders before then. And the record will be released not only on CD, but also on vinyl. There'll be a red vinyl, silver. I'm real excited about it. This is the first vinyl record for Enuff Z'Nuff since 1991, because record companies just didn't focus on vinyl for a long time. And now they are. Vinyl's on an upsurge, and people are excited about it. They want to hear those analog records, and this is no exception. This is a juggernaut of a record where pictured Cheap Trick and David Bowie fighting in an alley, and ELO comes in and breaks it up. I mean, it's a really a strong record. It shows all different sides of Enuff Z'Nuff, and it's glitter rock at its best, and with great pop overtones. It's not a heavy metal record, but it's rock. And I think people will be pleasantly surprised. There's elements of metal in the record. I mean, my guitar player, Tori Stofring, is just slaying it on there. And Fennell's one of the best rhythm guitar players since Brad Whitford. So I think we got something really solid here. I'm looking forward to the tour with Live Nations. Starts on the 12th in San Diego at the House of Blues. Jack Russell's Great White. Mark Torian's Bullet Boys, Enuff Z'Nuff. And one other band to be announced later, I think. And I hope everybody shows up. But in the meantime, let's not put the cart before the horse. It's Sacramento. It's Holy Diver. It's going to be jam-packed. I hope there's trim there, because I'm looking for action. We play for the girls every single night. And the dudes like that as well. Yeah. And I'm looking forward to a nice little setup for this next tour that's coming up real soon. So I thank you talking to me. I really appreciate you taking the time out,
Absolutely.
asking me these questions, and I hope I haven't bored anybody. And I got to get back in the studio right now. It's time to go sing.
You got it. Well, Chip, thank you so much. Be safe out there on the road, and we'll see you next week at the Holy Diver.
Thanks, bro. Wishing you well.
You
Everybody
got it.
See you at the show.
You got it.
Cheers.
Thank you so much.